Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to share tips and strategies with you so that you feel much more comfortable and confident so that you can have more control investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And on today's show, if you've ever wanted to know what it was really like to go from a past that maybe wasn't ideal, being able to move from that into ministry, and then from ministry to being able to help multiply money and positively affect thousands of lives around the globe, then guess what? Today is the episode that you're going to want to stick around for to the very, very end. Because on today's episode, we actually have the person not only was a minister and had the opportunity to travel throughout some more than 20 countries, he's also a father and a husband of 2. He's a best-selling author. He's also a syndicator and a strategist in creating infinite returns. And he's also the co-founder of the Elevate Investing Group. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's show, Mr. Michael Manthei. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, Billy, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
My friend, this really warms my heart to be able to welcome you onto the show today, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. I'm sure that our entire audience is going to get lots and lots of value from you sharing your story today. So I want to jump in. Michael, we kind of have a format here. I'd like to ask in the very beginning, just to help us understand where exactly you are based in the United States. Can you help us understand what city you live in?
Yeah, so we're in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, world famous for the Amish. If anybody has ever seen a show or something about the Amish community, we're smack dab in the international headquarters. So Lancaster, Pennsylvania, we're about 2.5 hours north of Washington, D.C., and 2.5 hours southwest of New York City. So Pennsylvania's on the East Coast, just below New York and just above Baltimore and Washington, D.C.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh, not to mention an hour and a half west of the great state of New Jersey.
Of course.
Where could I leave that off?
Love it. Love it. Love it. So also too, Michael, thanks for sharing the city. And what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Well, some 24 hours that might be hard, but the last 24 hours, it was not. Yesterday was a Sunday, and I've been taking my girls to a local creek and trying to catch little crayfish there. So we did that yesterday, and then they've been asking for a movie night. So the most amazing thing, I have 2 daughters, 3 and 5, sitting there watching a movie, one on each leg. I made popcorn because they always want popcorn. I don't even touch mine because I've got 2 handfuls of girls, but it's just the best thing, man.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Being able to spend quality time with your little ladies and popcorn. I'm a big fan of that as well. So thanks for sharing that. And there's so many things. I mean, I've talked about a couple of things in the beginning. I didn't even talk about you flying over the skies of Pennsylvania quite frequently. Hopefully you'll tell us a little bit more about that as well, because those of us that know you, we know that you love that and love sharing that with us. But could you give us a little bit more about your backstory? Help us understand Michael Manthei, the man, please.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in Minnesota, which is right in the middle of the U.S. at the top. Very cold. That's where all my family's at. That's not my wife's family. So you mentioned kind of maybe a rougher start. That would certainly be true. In high school, man, I don't know why I went so. I mean, I'm kind of a intense personality, all or nothing type person. And for whatever reason, I found drugs at a fairly young age. I was 12 when stumbled upon my older brother's stash, and I jumped into that with both feet. So that was kind of the background for my high school days. There was a period of probably at least 2 years where I don't know if I was sober one time. I would smoke pot as soon as I got up, on the way to school, at lunch, after school, all throughout the evening, late at night, get up and do it again the next day. I used to have to trust myself because I'd forget where I'd stash stuff. So I'd have to stash stuff where I'd remember where it was without like I'd find it, but nobody else would find it. Ridiculous. So the summer after high school, I started actually selling drugs. I would go down to Minneapolis and then run stuff back up to my little town. And so that was my, that was my life. Everybody used to know me as my last name. I used to not like to hear my last name said because it was so synonymous with a drug person that I didn't even like hearing it said after I got cleaned up. So Billy, we didn't talk about kind of the spiritual nature of your podcast, but I'll just share my experience if that's cool.
Please do. Please do. Yes.
So during this time, I had some experiences with God when I was young. I'd like feel his love come around me, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. I love this God. But then, going to church and seeing just this kind of a fake show that people did on the outside, I kind of got turned off to it, but yet I knew he was still real and was good and was loving. So, but during this time, like I didn't want anything to do with him. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll get my ticket punched to heaven at 50, but I'm going to have fun between now and then. So that was my perspective. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. Leave me alone. The day before I left for college, I left the house. I went to this party, and it's really hard to explain what happened. It's almost like I got taken out of my body, but it was a perspective thing. It was like I was taken out of my perspective to like this third person place. I wasn't asking for this. I didn't want anything to do with God. Shown my life. It just looked like this dark, downward spiral. And I saw everything I was doing was worthless. It was all horrible. There was nothing good about any of it. So I go to this party. It's supposed to be my party. And I'm just watching all of this happen. I'm sitting in a chair, have my eyes closed. Everybody's like, they don't know what to do. I'm supposed to be the life of the party. Finally, I just say, guys, I got to go take care of something. And I went home, a little bit vulnerable here, but I stepped over the threshold of my house walking in. Billy, I broke apart like a baby. I sobbed and I sobbed and I sobbed. I cried for so long. And I finally I asked God to forgive me. And I didn't even know I was carrying around a weight, but it was literally like 1,000 pounds got lifted off of me. I felt it change immediately. I'd looked happy on the outside, but I was depressed, man. Anytime I was by myself, I was depressed, but get me around people and, I'd look happy. I like went from being truly happy from the inside in a moment. So I have this experience, and I'm like, you know what? People actually came from a long way to see me off at this party. So I go back to the party. I throw away all kinds of drugs and tobacco stuff and paraphernalia in the dumpster on the way back up. And I wish I could bottle this and give it away to treatment centers, because years of drug addiction, I tried to quit multiple times before. I might make it 24 hours and I'd be right back on it. It was like, it just snapped off me. There wasn't any cravings or any, cold turkey, this or that. And ever since then, I just, like I said, I'm kind of an all or nothing person. So I wanted to get to know this God who, in the middle of me saying, screw you, I don't want anything to do with you, I'm going to do what I want to do. Like, that should have gotten a lightning bolt. I should have tripped in front of a bus for most people's understanding of who God is. yet he initiated contact with me, completely changed my life. So I wanted to get to know this amazing God. So that's kind of what I jumped into, hours a day. So that has become the backbone. Usually not, I don't advertise that too much, but I was remembering yesterday as we were watching a movie. It was about a Bible story, and just the whole thing. I'll be eternally grateful for that.
Mm. So that is, first of all, I appreciate, and we appreciate you sharing that story with us and that vulnerability. And so the thing that makes me want to ask, really, you talk about all or nothing. And so you went from this life where many would see it was not the lifestyle that most would accept. You came to a
Right.
moment of clarity on yourself, and then now you've pivoted and you wanted to know more about this experience,
Yeah.
this spirituality experience. And so, help us understand from that point, how did you move into learning more about yourself, and then how you eventually, or what role real estate started to play in your life, or how you were attracted or brought into that world?
Yeah. So that experience kind of started, a process where I just would spend all kinds of time trying to get to know this being. Um, and I always wanted it to be real. Like if it was going to be like just for one day in a certain building, on a certain day, like, and that was the extent of it, like, dude, I'll go do something else. Like that just doesn't interest me at all. So how do you know if something's real unless you test it? So I would just start listening. I was like, hey, if we're going to have a relationship, like I started listening, and then I'd go out and practice stuff. I mean, I won't get into it today, but I've done some of the craziest things just trying to figure out, like, hey, is this, am I in tune, or am I just like deluding myself? Am I imagining stuff? I think a lot of people do that in a lot of areas, but I didn't want that. So, bunch of funny stories of practicing with that. But I finally got to the point where I was, at the beginning, it was like I was hardly ever right, most of the time wrong. And then, by the end, it's flip flopped. It's like, wow, this is actually possible to live with intuition and live with some of these things that seem outside of our abilities, but it's just that we haven't trained ourselves to be that. So I had started one day. I felt like God said, start a construction company. I'd been a laborer for 9 months. So I was like, okay, like sometimes your ignorance can help you because you don't know how ridiculous it is what you're about to do. So I started a construction company when I was like 20, 21. I had that for a few years. Right about the place that we're about to take off, we had 5 employees and a great reputation in the area. I felt like he said, hey, let's go do something else. I transitioned into full-time ministry, traveled, like you said, 20 some countries. And that was really, I feel like, my character development, my leadership development, my maturity. There's this concept of fake it till you make it, and all of this kind of stuff. And I'm kind of on the other side of that. I think too much faking it until you make it. If you're not careful, you get good at faking it, and then you never do the hard work of growing on the inside. So my thing is, listen, I'd rather you just see everything of what it is. And if it's ugly, if it's immature, I want to know that so I can grow instead of try to, do a better job of, creating this robot. Sometimes I see people and it's like, hello, I am Michael. And it's like, I see you on the inside there. I see you like you're moving the levers and stuff. It's like, who do you think you're kidding? Right.
Yeah.
So that time was like a 10-year period where I feel like built things in me to carry the weight of what we're doing now. On the outside, it might look like we grew quick, but you don't see the foundation that was getting built over those 10 years. So during that time, I really had this hard, I bought this lie, I think growing up in church, that money was evil, business was dirty. And that's such a lie. God created us to be kings on the earth, and you can't affect change without massive resources. I mean, you can, Mother Teresa, but the amount of money that moved through that ministry, to help all the people that she helped. So this poverty mindset is a complete lie that is somehow connected to godliness. That is not true at all. God owns everything, and He feels just fine about that. So it took a while for me to kind of uncover that lie and realize that I'd felt dirty owning a business before. And as God started saying, I want to lead you back into finances, I want to lead you back into that world. I was actually able to do it with my whole heart. So started reading books. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That book behind here just revolutionized my life. So you too?
Yeah, it's here over my shoulder. For those of us that are that are watching on video, you can see it over my shoulder as well. So
cool. So yeah, that book changed my life. And there was a concept in that book that he said, when your passive income meets and exceeds your monthly expenses, you can retire. That thing became lodged in my subconscious. I didn't even know how deep that was in there. But as I left ministry, came to Pennsylvania, got married to an amazing, beautiful young lady, we started building, and that's kind of where my life transitioned into real estate investing.
Fantastic. So so there's a lot of different things we could unpack here. And I just think about you talking about the fact that your expenses, or you need to have your passive income that's equal to or greater than your expenses. It's one of the things that when we play Cash Flow 101 here, it's one of those basic principles, right? And being able to see that and repeat that on a game board, of course, it's a bit safer there. But for those of us that start to really get that ingrained into our mind, it really becomes a game changer, and you can't get it out of your mind. It's once you literally learn it and see it and do it. I mean, I don't know what you think about that, but I feel like it's once you've learned that, it's impossible to unlearn that.
Right. And I feel like you also have to commit to it, because, when we bought our first house and it was kicking off, a couple $100 a month in cash flow, which I know, to some people to have cash flow on an asset is great. So we were grateful that it cash flowed, but in our area, a lot of people are flipping houses. So they'll work for a couple months and get a $20,000, $50,000, $75,000 check off of one house. So the discipline that it takes to say, you know what, I'm not looking to create another job for myself. I'm actually looking to generate income not tied to me going to work and punching a time card. It takes discipline, and it takes time to kind of build up that side, because that, $200 a unit or whatever it is, depending on what you're, if you're investing with yourself or as part of a syndication, you have to commit to it, because at the beginning it feels like this is going to take forever, but it generates momentum. So that would be one key, is like focus there and then keep focusing there until that thing starts getting going.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we see, or one of the things that you'll see outside of the United States is, and a lot of people that I know here in Europe, it's normal to pay into a property that you may own. Like you may pay 25, 30, 100 euros or $100 a month to maintain the property. And then eventually you're going to sell it and get some of your money back. And so that when you start seeing those concepts and you help people to understand that really you can have properties that actually provide you with cash flow, and therefore getting you closer to the lifestyle that you really want to lead. And sometimes it can be a little bit mentally challenging for people that have not seen that before as the standard. So
I believe that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because having traveled in some 20 plus countries, and that was part of your leadership journey, I'd love to know, Michael, some of the skills and insights that you learned from traveling around the globe. I know it's impacted me so much. How are those learnings in that time traveling, how is that helping you today with the Elevate Investment Group, the community that you're now building as you go all in?
That's a good question. Obviously the context of a bigger world is, invaluable. You just can't get that any other way. I think the perspective and the humility of knowing the privileges and things that we have, so that the opportunities aren't squandered. Being in we were at Smoky Mountain in the Philippines. It's a dump that, 100,000 people live in. And the highlight of their day is when a new dump truck unloads fresh garbage for them to all pick through, and all kinds of kids and stuff in there. So, you have some of those experiences. It's just kind of sobering. You don't look at your life like, oh, this is normal. And so, if they didn't have my favorite cereal, it's like, oh, woe is me. But honestly, probably the biggest one has been just working with people. So we had a team of 16, and just helping, when you're living in a foreign country, away from everything, away from your family, stuff comes up for people. So conflict resolution, that was kind of my role, and something that I did a lot of, in just helping people stay clean. Like, instead of learning to live with each other and let stuff lie, it was like, hey, let's just all get clean. Let's all, if you have an issue, let's talk about it. We actually all care about each other. So if you care, then you can work through stuff. A lot of people don't like conflict or confrontation. I'm kind of the opposite. I actually love it. There's no better time to show someone that you actually and genuinely care, as when they're used to people getting pissed off, getting upset. And if you can stay centered and intent on the value of the person and the value of the relationship, being on the same side of the table to work towards a solution, I've just seen relationships take off, because of hard conversations, but they actually found out how much I care throughout that. So just being able to work with people, I think, is the number one skill on the planet. Nothing happens on the planet except people agree. So nobody owns anything on the planet except people. So if you want to deal in value, if you want to deal in money, in transactions, got to learn how to deal with people.
I love that. And being able to have those difficult conversations, I believe in that so much, and doing it in a constructive way. I think about some friendships that I've made, where both of us really worked on. I'm thinking of one friend in particular that in the beginning there wasn't that feeling, and we had to work through some things, and it's one of my best friends in the entire world. Right. And to be able to use those types of skills and learn and be able to build with one another. Fantastic. So, and I'm thinking about these skills that you're using, and also thinking about the Going Long podcast, right? A lot of us are really wanting to understand how can you invest beyond your backyard? And you're talking about a lot of the different talents and skills that you've developed. I also happen to know that you've been able to invest beyond your backyard. And I'm just wondering, kind of, how have you been able to go about doing that, investing beyond your backyard, and also the role that creating the right team with you has played in being able to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when my wife and I started, we bought and self-managed everything. And, you mentioned at the intro, strategist for infinite returns. That concept has completely changed our life. It's what allowed us to buy, 50 plus units in less than 2 years and hit that goal of financial freedom where we could do anything we wanted. So actually, Michael, sorry, I am going to, because I know I don't want to take you completely off what you're doing, but when you tell us the story, because I think it's really important for so many of the Going Long audience to understand, when we talk about that infinite return, how you actually go about doing that would be great as well. Sure. Yeah. I'll break that down a little bit. So
thank you.
Infinite return, a lot of people are thinking, how much can I make on my investment? If I invest 100 grand, what's my return going to be? 4%, 6%, -2%, 15%. that's an easier concept to understand, and it's the one most people focus on in my experience. Well, for my wife and I, we didn't have a ton of capital to start. We started with my wife's life savings at $25,000. Billy, can I tell the story that opened this whole thing up for me?
Please go right ahead.
My wife got pregnant. We had 2 single family homes at the time. My wife got pregnant. She wanted to stay at home with our new baby. So I started looking for a deal that would be big enough to replace her part-time income. We get one under contract. We're all excited. It's a couple apartments, a few garages, a couple small warehouses. The income from it would just replace her part-time income. We're all excited until one Saturday night, I get a call from my realtor, and she says, "Hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but we lost that contract." It was before we bought it. We were under contract. She said, "Hey, we lost that contract." So this was an estate. It was a family that had owned a ton of property. The family died. The parents died. It was going to an estate. So the lawyer for the estate had another offer that was $5,000 more. So he found a loophole in our contract that he could cancel it and sold it to the other people for $5,000 more. So I get that call on a Saturday night. It feels like the provision for my wife to stay at home is getting stolen away from us. And I was upset, man. I was upset. Go to bed Saturday night. I wake up Sunday morning, and this was so outside of my ability to do. I was completely at peace. And we talked about, the intuition and getting to know that. Thankfully, I knew exactly what that meant. I told my wife, I said, "Sweetheart, I know this is horrible, but watch and see what God is going to do. He's going to actually use this for our advantage. Watch and see." I told our realtor the same thing. We go out the next week looking for properties. The biggest things are like 2 units and 3 units. And I'm thinking like, maybe we'll buy a few of those or something. Like we need something bigger. We head into one, and she looks at her phone and she says, "Oh, that's interesting." I said, "What?" She said, "That same family just listed another property." And I said, I would have to be an idiot and have no wisdom to deal with people of no integrity a second time. Like, you do it once, that's on you. You do it twice, that's on me. But as soon as I said that to her, I just felt something in my heart. And I said, wait a minute, maybe this is what God was going to do for us. So basically what happened was they'd saved their best property for the last sale out of like 30 properties. It was coming up on the end of the year. The family of the estate actually were people of integrity. They didn't know what the lawyer did. When they found out, they actually felt compassion for us and were like, hey, let's try to make a deal. So we made them a really low offer on this 10-unit building, grocery store, 7 apartments, and little office, and a contracted warehouse. And we made an offer with no contingencies, cash. We got a hard money loan, which I don't know if you guys know what that is, but basically a 12% interest loan to be able to buy this thing with 100% cash. So there was no backdoor for anybody to get out of the contract. We bought this thing the last day of the year so they could close their estate. They were highly motivated to do that. We went to our bank. It appraised for $150,000 more than we paid for it. So the bank completely paid off our hard money loan, put like $15,000 in our pocket, and then gave us a $75,000 line of credit that we could keep buying with. But much more than that $75,000 line of credit was this concept of infinite returns, where if you're making money off of an asset where you don't have any of your own cash in it, you can't calculate a return on investment. So what's $10,000 a year divided by 0? It's infinite. Right. So an infinite return is where you own an asset without any of your capital in it, and it continues to pay you. So that was the most valuable lesson we've learned in our investing career. That's what allowed us over the next 2 years to buy 50 plus units and achieve our goal of financial freedom. So that's infinite returns. That's what we do today with our apartment buildings. We look for ways, how can we, capital preservation. I think when people get started in investing, they're thinking about the return on their capital. The more successful you get, you're more concerned about the return of your capital. It's how do you get your capital back home where it's safe, and then you can redeploy it. So, that's what we focus on today, because that's what changed our lives.
Fantastic. Wow. Thank you for giving us the explanation on the infinite returns. And that's amazing, because you hear so many times, if something happens once, shame on you. If it happens twice, shame on me. And you actually had the fortitude to really say, you know what, let's see if this works out the second time. And as a result, you were able to experience something very powerful, which ultimately helped you to get on track for your life goals with your wife and your family, which is phenomenal. Which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So Michael, I before we kind of wrap things up, I'd really like for you to help us understand. I know that I know a lot about your investment group at Elevate, but can you tell us a little bit about Elevate Investment Group and kind of what you're doing and how you're helping people?
Sure. Yeah. Did you want me to touch on the investing outside of our area?
Well, if you want to go to that, yeah, sure.
So just to wrap that up, we did everything ourselves, but I knew that would be a limitation because there's only so many properties I can oversee and I can find in our local area. So the first thing we did is we bought a property about an hour away, 11 apartments. So I could keep an eye on it if I needed to, but I also put it with a manager. So that's gone extremely well. So now we've done investing all over the United States. And basically the three most important things for us is, what's the market? So is there going to be demand in the market? That's the number one thing you have to know. Number two, who's the team that's going to operate it? Because the easy thing is signing the papers day one. The hard part is who's going to make that thing perform to the pro forma over day two through the exit strategy. So the market and the team are always more important to us than the deal itself. So many people are running around looking for deals. That's the least important. It's extremely important, but it's the least important of these three. So as people think about investing long, look at the market, make sure there's demand there for the product type and the asset that you're going to purchase. Make sure you're with a team that has a track record, integrity, they know what they're doing. And then you obviously have to evaluate the asset and make sure it makes sense to you. So just to bring that full circle on investing long.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, because it's one of the things, it's one of the focus areas, right? And having a lot of similar mentors, it's really being clear on the specific, what is the why are you going to move into a particular asset class, making sure the location supports that you have a team that is world-class. And then lastly, looking at the opportunity or the specific asset. So I'm so glad that you said that as well, because once again, it helps to add a lot of value to our going long audience. So thanks for that, and appreciate you going back and then bringing us back forward to the things you're doing now with Elevate Investment Group.
Yeah. So when my wife and I achieved our financial freedom, we said we can do anything we want in the world. I thought I was going to relax and have more time with the family and all that. When I did my soul searching though, and prayed and talked to my wife, we realized we absolutely love what we're doing, but it would be a whole lot more fulfilling, instead of my wife and I owning everything, to do it in a community and with other people. So from that moment, that was years ago, we haven't bought anything that's just her and I. We haven't always needed other people's money to buy the bigger assets we're buying today. But the goal isn't just to make a bunch of money for ourselves. As much fun as that is, trust me, it's fun. But it's a lot more fulfilling to do it with other people. So we started Elevate Investing Group. It's a community. It's a local community. We have local meetings once a month. Well, they're online now, thanks to COVID. And we have an investor club where people can invest alongside of us. All of our deals these days are syndications. It's a structure that allows passive investors to come along and invest in real assets that are fully managed. And then we do, have some educational stuff, and we have a, big 2-day event that we like to do every year. So it's been amazing. It's one thing to buy an asset and make money and financially free and all that stuff. But when you get these texts and emails of, hey, I came to your event last year and I made some changes and I just bought the house that makes me financially free. Thank you so much. when you get that kind of feedback, like this podcast, there's a satisfaction and a fulfillment in that money just can't touch.
Fantastic. So this is great, Michael, that we've gotten a chance to understand so much about what it is that you're doing, helping us to understand also too with the Elevate Investing Group, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and it's fantastic. And so as we get ready to wrap things up, we're getting ready to get into what we call the going long final 3 questions. But the thing is, I only ask the questions if you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you the questions. So, Michael, are you ready for me to ask you the questions?
I am ready.
All right, here we go. So the first question is, I live in Barcelona, and I love being able to connect people from Europe to the United States, or United States and all over the place, but specifically Europe, right? And so what is your favorite European city, either that you visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
Yeah, if you, I would have said Egypt, but that's not European now, is it? Right over the water. European, I'm going to say Strasbourg, Germany. Or is it Strasbourg, France? I always forget. I think it's France, right?
Strasbourg. Yeah, Strasbourg. Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, I visited that when I was in ministry. I was like, man, I'd like to take my wife here someday.
Oh, nice.
And then got to take my wife over. It's just a cute little town. It's got the water going around, so much history and Alsace-Lorraine there. So we'll say that one.
Wonderful. Okay. Vote for Strasbourg. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, Michael. Knowing that you have been able to get started in you've seen a lot of things, you've experienced lots of success. And along the path, you've probably made, I'm going to guess, just one mistake, only one, or maybe not. And I guess what I'd love to do, think about the things that have happened to you along your journey. If you can think of a mistake and like one major lesson that you've learned that you would love to pass forward to someone else.
So that one isn't too hard. And, there's mistakes that cost you, and there's mistakes that shortcut your potential. And so I would say learning how to work with other people in a team. I'm used to being the one that puts everything together, and I still do, but I'm much more aware of team members and how to connect with them, find areas where I can add value without feeling like I have to do everything. So find my area to add value, but together you can go so much further and do so much more than you can individually if your mind is open to that.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Being able to create and work with teams and work through teams. Absolutely love that. And so, Michael, we're down to question number 3. And that question is, what book would you recommend, or I guess better stated, what book are you recommending nowadays?
Yeah, man, there are so many. I will say The Go-Giver by Bill Berg? Bob Berg? I think Bob Berg, The Go-Giver. It's just up here. Well, you're not going to be able to see it. But that is an incredible book. Dave Zook is the one who told me about that. He said he rereads that every year. I'm like, oh my word, if there's a book Dave Zook rereads every year, I should probably read it. So I finished it on a flight from Pennsylvania to Texas. So a couple hour flight, was able to get through it. Pretty quick read. But it's just powerful about adding value and looking where you can serve and add value first. So often we're so concerned about what we can get. And if you give, you'll receive. So instead of focus on the receiving, if you focus on the giving, that'll start the process. And it's a powerful book.
Go-Giver. And I think actually, Dave, when he spoke to us before he was here, I think he actually mentioned the Go-Giver. So when you said that, I was like, okay, cool. So that was the reminder. And so, I'm thinking about that, and just, it's one of those things that's really difficult. And I'm going on a little bit here, so I appreciate the book recommendation, but going from that scarcity mindset of what can I get versus what can I give. Maybe we'll have you back on another show, because I know that you are so much into being able to understand what you can add value to others first. But it's not something that's easy. Michael. And I know that once we get through that and we can help other people to get through that to where the abundance mindset begins to take place, then we can have such a larger impact on the world just in general, beyond real estate. I'm just talking about the world in general. So it would be another conversation would be great to dig a bit deeper into with you.
Love to.
Wow. Michael, this has been awesome. So being able to, first of all, have you share some very vulnerable, intimate things with our audience is great. Because in life, everything doesn't have to be perfect, right? In order for you to be able to find your way forward, right? I mean, you started off with a past that some would say a checkered past, and you found, both feet forward and deep into ministry because you wanted to find out more about that. You realize that beyond ministry, there are also many people in the business world that are able to add value. You've been able to see that, bring that into your own home. You've been able to realize that, you know what, it's not always just thinking about, shame on, if it happens to you once, shame on you, and twice, shame on me. You were able to look beyond that. And as a result, your family grew stronger and got closer to your goals. And now you've been able to take that and your ability to build teams, understand people, and building such an awesome community at Elevate Investing Group. And you're doing that, not just locally, but literally globally. And I know a lot of the ways that you and your team are using social media, you're affecting so many lives positively. And, all these things that we're talking about, I know that I want to be able to continue to stay in touch with you and learn from you and grow with you. And I'm sure that so many of our audience right now want to do the exact same thing. So Michael, can you help everyone understand what is the best way to get in touch with you, understand more about what you're doing at Elevate? And also, I know you're going to be doing some things here pretty soon that would also allow people to get to know you and your community even closer. So maybe I know I threw 3 questions at you, but if you can answer those and help us, how can we get in touch with you, man?
All good. Yeah, social media, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Just look up my name, Michael Manthei, on Facebook. That's probably where I'm most active. Do my flying videos. Have a lot of fun with that. Drop candy down on kids and blow their minds. Our Elevate Investing Group, we'd love for anyone that's interested to get involved with the community. So it's investelevate.com. So investelevate.com. My email is michael@investelevate.com. So feel free to reach out to me there. That's probably the best way to contact me directly. And our 2-day event, super excited. Last year was amazing. 250 plus people flew in from all over, had national speakers come to Lancaster. This year, we are doing it online due to the uncertainty of large gatherings. So August 28 and 29 is the online Elevate Investing Summit 2020. It's called Wealth Strategies for Uncertain Times. So if there was ever a time where you would want to gain perspective by listening to podcasts like this, national speakers coming to events, now is the time. And in the days ahead, there's going to be incredible opportunity. So you want to align with the right people and the right perspectives. So we have Robert Helms and Dave Zook and Kyle Wilson and Dana Samuelson and Anton Matley and just a whole lineup. My father-in-law, Jerry Horst, is going to be a speaker. He and I co-host this group. And anyone that wants to come, Billy, I'll let you know how to invite people. We'd love to have you. It's going to be a great 2 days.
Okay, awesome. So, Michael, thank you so much. We're going to include all this in the show notes, and we'll definitely have the opportunity for a going long audience to be able to get in touch with you, the Elevate Investing Group, and also we'll give more information on the event that's going to be happening. And I know sometimes this will create a great opportunity also too, because normally we love to be able to meet one another face to face, and this looks like it's going to be an opportunity to be able to impact even more lives positively. So, being able to do it in a virtual manner until we can sit down and see one another face to face. So, Michael, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for being here, for sharing your story with us and helping to educate us and helping us to realize that, yes, even more so through stories like yours, that being able to invest beyond your backyard is something that can be done effectively. And so thank you very much for joining us today.
It's my honor. Thanks for having me. God bless you and your audience. I love what you're doing here.
All right. Thanks so much, Michael. And so also too, just want to give a big thank you to everyone here, each one of you at the Going Long audience. Really appreciate you taking time once again, investing with us here today. Hope you've loved the value that Michael's been adding in the show. And also too, we want to continue to grow. We want to have more like-minded people. So feel free to go out and share this with at least 2 or 3 other people. And that way we get more like-minded people in our community as we continue to grow. And also too, with today's show, you want to go ahead and leave us a 5-star review and help us to understand the things that the golden nuggets that you took away from the conversation is always helpful. So we want to appreciate that. And I am really looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next episode. Until then, go out and make it a great day. Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.